Router bits. What are they? What do they do? More information on specifically router bits for wood signs coming right up. Hello, I'm Henry from Woodworking by LPI, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about router bits and the different uses of router bits and the basic ones that I use. Okay, so let's get right into it. Router bits. What are router bits? Well, router bits are the shank with the cutting tool at the end of the router that you use to cut the wood. And you can do different things. As we were showing in the last video that I did regarding edges, they do different types of designs and different types of cuts, whether it be edge, whether it be carving into the wood, such as letters, backgrounds, pictures, images, and they cut at different versions. Okay, so your V-Carve 60, for example, as you see, has a V on it. So it carves a V carve into the wood, and I'm going to show you that here in a little bit. Then you have the end mills, like this one here. And this one here is an upcut, which throws that material outward. And this one does cutouts as well as background. You cut out background around outset letters. So those are the two primary ones that I use. Now, there are these two that I first bought, and as you can see, I barely ever use them. They're very nice router bits, but I hardly ever use them. These are the primary two that I use, along with the edging one. Okay, so how many router bits is that? That's 1, 2, 3. 3 of my primary bits. And believe me, these things are expensive, especially if you go through them a lot. So what I'm going to show you is these 3 router bits, what they do, how I use them, and then I'm going to show you how I clean them, as well as how I sharpen them. So hopefully you get some value out of this as we go along. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the router bits that you may be using or considering, for that matter. And put a comment down below, put a comment down below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notifications, because I got a lot of videos coming out with tips and tricks regarding specifically wood signs. So what are we going to do with regard to the routers, or the router bits? Well, there's a lot of misnomers about router bits, and it's like you're buying a car. I know that's a really bad analogy, but buying a car. You know, when you go to look for a car, you look for your different purposes for buying a car. Do you have a family, not have a family? Are you towing something? How much weight? What size of truck do you get? What size of car do you get? Do you buy fuel economy? There's lots of options, right? Well, same thing with router bits. There's lots of options to use. But what I'm trying to help you out here with is that you don't need to buy all that stuff if you're just doing basic wood signs. Now, if you have a specific purpose-driven project or wood sign that you're using, well, you may have to buy a special purpose router bit. But, you know, I'm here to tell you folks, these things are expensive, okay? So I'm trying to save you a few bucks. All right, so let's put these all off to the side over here. And let's look at my first buy when I first got into this a couple years ago. And I was all excited about doing, you know, wood signs, and you know, I've worked with wood for years, but the wood signs in the specifically carving wood signs was something that was somewhat new to me, not completely. I'd used a Dremel and other things to carve signs, but never really got into it from the router perspective. Well, several years later, here I am, and this is my first router bit kit that I bought. See all the different types in there? It's like flavors of ice cream. Which one do you choose? Now, I'm not belittling the different types of router bits for specific purpose, okay? They are purpose, okay? You have edges, you have end cuts here for mills, and then you have more edging tools down here. Some have a bearing, some don't have a bearing, and it's all confusing. Okay, well, you can see a lot of those in there are still new. I haven't used them, so, but I keep them around because it might be, you know, handy sometime down the road. Okay. Well, if you want more information, and I don't provide enough here, and I don't want to make this YouTube video, you know, that long. If you want more information, you can go to my website, woodworkingbylpi.com, and you can search for an article that I have there called "Router Bit Different Types Wood Signs helpful guide. And I go into a lot more detail with regard to specifically what router bits are, the different sizes and purposes and such. In fact, it'd probably be easier if you just went to Google and you searched on the term router bit, different types, wood signs dash helpful guide. Okay, and it'll go a lot more in depth than I'm going to go to here on this video. I'm trying to shorten it down just as much as I can. Okay, so I'm using a DeWalt 611 or 600, sorry. I have two different versions and they look identical. So this is a 1/4 inch shank. The shank is the bottom part of the router bit right here. They do have 1/2 inch shanks. Now, if you're doing more of an industrial type application or things of that nature that really require a lot of stress, then yes, you'd probably want to use a 1/2 inch shank. But for the purpose of the wood sign, the 1/4 inch is fine. And there's a question that I've been asked a lot. Can you use router bits that you normally use on something like this in a CNC? And the answer is yes. I know, shocking, right? You can see a lot of advertisers out there telling you had to buy a specific type of router bit for a CNC. Well, if you're not doing a lot of duress on the router bit, it really doesn't make a difference. As long as the bit is clean and sharp, it'll cut just fine, as long as your speed isn't that great. Because the purpose of the router bit is to cut out material. And you want to make sure that it ejects the material out as it's carving. This one here, the end mill, is one of the best ones that I use all the time. Now you might ask, why the blue tips? Okay, well, they're covered with a coating to protect them. Okay, I get mine from Tools Today. I always go for the Amanas. They have other brands out there as well, but the Amanas and these blue tips have worked out very well for me for longevity. Okay, and as of this time, I want to say these are roughly a little over $20 a piece. This one for certain is, I think it's a little over $20, so don't quote me on the price, but I'll show you what this carves. Okay, and then I'm going to show you about the router, and we'll discuss the end mill also. Okay, so here's one of my signs right here. This is a template of one of my signs, and you can see what this does is this carves out each letter. Okay, as well as it did the lines, and it did the flag, and it did the stars as well. And this is done on a CNC. Okay, it's a program that I use. I use a Carves program to do the CAD software, and then it places it out there, and then the router bit goes into the router on my CNC. And I'll give you a quick shot of my CNC. Okay, that is my CNC. And yes, I'll come out with a video on that as well. I'll make sure I put that back right. So obviously you want to make sure that the router is off. So we're going to go into this and make sure the router is off. And then I'm going to remove the base here. Okay, I'm going to put that lip, and you have two little clips here on each side, and you squeeze that and it comes right off. That allows you to get to the shank. It's a little dust. And this is the coupler, and this is the bit. Okay, this button here, you want to make sure you know what that is. That's what holds it together. Now, not all routers, especially your older ones, are going to have the button. Okay, you're going to have to use two different wrenches. And this comes with the router when you buy it, by the way. You're going to use two different wrenches. One's a lock nut and one's a loosen nut, and you'll have to do it that way. But thankfully, on this router here, if you push in the button and you turn it lefty-loosey, you can see that it loosens the coupler, which loosens the router bit. Well, I make it look easy, don't I? So here's another question. And like I said, in that article I post on my website, another question I get is, how far do I put it down into the collet? The collet is the little piece inside, and then you have this coupler on the outside. This is what tightens the collet. The collet squeezes together, which is what holds the bit. Now, there's a lot of different opinions on that, and it's really interesting. Some folks say put it all the way in and then back it off about 1/8. Some folks say, no, you want to back it off just a little bit, just enough to, to make sure that the collet holds. Well, okay, so let me explain the purpose of the collet. The collet has these lines in it. And So if you take my hand like this and you look at it from a flat perspective, when the coupler on the outside here squeezes it squeezes these together, and that's what holds the router bit in. And the thought is, if you put the router bit all the way into the bottom, see how far that goes? That goes forever on mine. So that theory doesn't work for me. The basic idea is to put it in my opinion, about 1/4 inch. Okay, so you don't want to put it so shallow into the router, because you don't want this thing flying out. This thing's going like 12,000 RPM, and it'll hurt. I tell you, it really hurt if this thing comes out. So safety, okay, think of safety. So I put it in about 1/4 inch, press the button, and then I tighten up the coupler to make sure that it's snug, still holding it down. Now, like I said, this button here holds this thing tight. Otherwise, if I let go of it, see how it turns? So I'm going to push the button in, and then I'm going to tighten it. Okay, so the router bit is in. And this is a 60, by the way, as I mentioned before. And I hope that answers the question with regard to the collet. I see hundreds of questions on forums and such on how far does this router bit go into this router. I mean, the bottom line is I put a 1/4 inch in. Some people put a little further. You really just want to be safe with it, okay? Make sure that the collet at the bottom is able to expand and tighten around the bit to hold it securely. Okay, so it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. All right. So I'm going to take the base and I'm going to put it back on. Now, if you look inside the base here, you'll see there's a mark on this side. Right, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if I go that way. Yeah, there we go. It's a little black mark right there. Right there. Okay. And you're going to line that up with this slot here. Okay, so I'm going to put that on there like that. Okay, and this should slide down easily. Okay, it shouldn't go down really hard. And pop it in. Okay, so the base is on, and then you're going to look at your depth. Okay, what is the depth that you want these done? Now, there's a lot of theories on that one as well. Well, there's a lot of theories in this business, isn't there, for woodworking? I guess it just comes with experience, which is why I'm doing the videos. So, okay, so we got the router bit in, we got the base on. What depth do you use this bit at? I mean, how far should it stick out? The biggest problem with folks who get started in wood signs is they don't carve deep enough. And it's a really shallow cut, you know, from the bit to the wood. And how do you gauge that? Well, depending upon the depth, which I have this handy dandy little tool. I don't know if you can see that or not. I got this from Old Dave. He has a YouTube channel. He has a lot of wonderful information out there. And his website sells these. So I'll put a link down in the description to get a hold of one of these, as well as on my my recommended products page on my website. And it's real simple to use. Okay, so if you want a 1/4 inch depth, okay, and I'll scoot this a little over here. If you want a 1/4 inch depth, you're going to put this right here next to it, and you're going to slide that right up to the router bit. And then we're going to adjust it, a little height, by using this down here. I'm going to turn this. And I'm going to turn it down just enough to make a 1/4 inch depth. And I know that because it's going to slide just a hair over it. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not, but so now I know that that is a 1/4 inch depth. See, so 1/4 inch, and it's sliding. Sure is. Hard to do that on video. Okay, so now I know it's a 1/4 inch. Okay, so really cool tool, by the way. If you're concerned about the depth of your router bit, so I'm going to close it up right here. I'm going to lock this. All right, so now I have the bit in. It's a 60 degree, which is used for 99% of your lettering, imaging, carving, you name it. This is what this is used for, the 60 degree. And we're going to make a couple test carves here to make it real simple for you. Okay. I hope this is explaining it a little bit as it goes along. Okay. I'm going to put my grip on. And of course, you know, we want our mask. Really cool mask. Okay, and I'm going to move it over here so y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I know it's set at 1/4 inch, and I'm going to run a couple lines here, or maybe a circle, and you can see the depth of the bit and how the 60 degree performs. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the 60 degree does a V cut. Okay, and I know it's 1/4 inch because we set it for 1/4 inch on the router depth, right? All right, so take off my mask here. Easy peasy, right? And like I said, this is what's used for a majority of your lettering and such on your signs. That's the primary 60 degree V-carve bit. So we're going to take that out, and then I'm going to go to the end mill. Now, the end mill is 1/4 inch shank again, and it has 2 flutes, which are the cuts on the sides here. I don't know if you can see the 2 flutes there or not. And what it does is it tosses material upward. This is an upcut end mill. Okay, so this is primarily used for removing material around outset lettering or cutting around an edge. Okay, and I most likely will do another video with regard to cutting and such, especially when I get to the CNC. I have a whole series that's going to come out on the CNC on how I design and cut and carve. The CNC is wonderful. It takes a lot of the work out of doing this, but it's very enjoyable. So I'm going to put this one in here. They have colettes like this that are quick change, and you can quick change them by using an Allen wrench. If you really want to get fancy, you know, on those, where you put these on, it has an Allen wrench and it pops off, and it has a preset. You know, you already have it together and has a preset. I at the moment can't seem to justify that in my mind of buying that collet, because that automatic collet, because it's they're rather expensive also. You're probably going to hear that out of me a lot. So I'm not necessarily cheap, but I like saving a buck when I can. And then again, I look at it from a purpose perspective. You know, who really needs to buy all that if you really don't need it? But then again, I'm a guy, and I like having lots of fun tools. You know, guys, boys and their toys, is that the expression? So, wow, that really dropped down there quite a bit, didn't it? That's what I get for not paying attention. So let me try that again. Okay, like I said, you want to make sure it's tight. Just use it to stop it, and you hold on. You want to make sure this is secure. You want to make sure the collet is clean so it gets a good grip all the way around the router bit. Okay, I'm going to put my base on, and like I said, we're going to line it up with our side, and it should just pop right on. Okay, so we have a mystery depth there. Okay, now you can use a tape measure. I've seen this method as well. You can use a tape measure, and you can try and guess. You know, that's really awkward to try and do as to what depth that is. Looks to be a little over 1/2 inch, but this is really awkward. That's why I like using this thing. It's so much easier. Okay, so I'm gonna take that way down. Okay, and 1/4 inch on a end mill is probably not enough, but for the purposes of this demonstration, you know, to help you folks out, I'm just going to put it at a 1/4 inch. Okay, and hopefully you can see that. I think my light's hitting it hard. Okay, I'll put it that way. Okay, so let me put my mask back on, and we'll do an end mill cut, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right. Now, these, oh, that came right off. These aren't fancy cuts. I'm just trying my darndest to do this as a quick demonstration for you folks. Okay, take our brush, and I'm gonna spread it out. Okay, now I don't know if you could see the depth of that. This compared to that. Okay, and this one here has a V style to it, and this one here is a straight edge. So, the two primary bits that I use, and they work awesome. I probably use those for 95% of the signs that I create. And you really don't need much more than that, other than the edge, which I showed you in the last video for doing the edging. Beyond that, unless you have a special purpose, you know, for a bit and an edging, or a specific purpose for something else, this is really all you need. I mean, you can get a 90. If you do a lot of background, there's a 90 version that brings this out just a little further, and I'll show you a 90. The 90, as you can see, is just a little further out. Let me put that a little closer there so you can see that. So you can see the 90 compared to the 60. And this one here is used to take out background, or to do edge if you're doing inset letters, if you have a background cut out on it. So, like I said, you can buy a lot of router bits, but in essence, really, that's the 3 you need. If you're starting out, these are the 3 that you need. Okay, so it's a 25-inch end mill, or excuse me, 25-inch. It's an end mill 25 or end mill 1/4 inch, a 60-degree, and a 2-step edge. That's what I call it. So, all right. So we have all that good fun stuff done. You've seen how it goes in the router. You've seen the examples of it. I mentioned earlier in the video that I'd be talking about cleaning and sharpening them. Okay. So really, this right here is the easiest one, and I'll you can do it on these as well. But I'm not going to make this really lengthy, so it doesn't go on forever. But what you want to do is you want to take a diamond either stone, or what I use are these here, to sharpen them with. Okay, and this comes into a selection of fine, super fine, and medium. And what these are is they're little tools that allow you to sharpen the edges of your router bits. And since you're paying so much for these, you know, take care of them. They'll last you a long time. I've probably done, I don't know, 400 or 500 cuts on this one, and it's still going strong. It's a little dirty at the moment. That's why I left it dirty, so I'm gonna make sure we can get the video here done. But I'm going to take a little bit of a brush, and I'm going to clean this out. I don't know if you can see this or not, but see, it's slowly cleaning out the dust. And then you have that side, which is really dirty. So I'm going to clean out the dust on this. Now, a lot of people use these, or they use stones. You've seen the folks with a knife, and they want to clean the edge, or they want to sharpen the edge of a stone. It's basically the same principle. But here I'm using a little handle that has the diamond edge on it, and I'm using the fine version. And like I said, it comes in super fine or medium as well. And like I said, I'll put a link in the description for this, and also it'll be on my recommended products on my website. But the big misnomer on this is when you sharpen these, you don't sharpen the curved edge. I don't know if you can see that or not. Hopefully you can. You sharpen the flat edge. I've seen some weird things out there with regard to sharpening router bits, but this is so simple to do. So I'm going to take the flat edge here, and basically what you want to do is you want to do a slow migrate out, just like you're sharpening a knife. Okay? And you want to sharpen the flat side, not the curved side, but the flat side. Because the flat side is the side that carves the material. And it really only takes just a little bit, because what will happen is just like a kitchen knife, or if you have a hunting knife, over time it'll dull. And really how it dulls on like a knife is, if you look at it really, really close, and you really, really don't need to go like crazy on this. You just need to take the burrs off of it, slowly work it out, and get yourself a smooth edge. That's simple. The burrs on the metal are like this, and as you're sharpening it, it brings it back like that. Okay. So same thing with the router bit. Same thing with this bit here, and same thing with this bit here. You're doing the flat edges. Okay. So let's do a little review here. So we had the 3 types of router bits: the 60, the 25, the end mill 25. I want to call that a 25 inch. It's not. It's a 1/4 inch. It's the end mill 25, and the edge, 1 for 2 step. That's what this is. We have how we talked about the router and the collet, and we talked about the sharpening tool and the handy dandy depth tool. Okay, which gives you the different depths, this is really cool. So, did this provide value to you? Did this help you out in understanding just a little bit about router bits and wood signs associated specifically with wood signs, and how it works, and how you can get products like this carved with this? Okay, now I could go into speeds, I could go into a whole bunch of different things when it comes to router bits, but like I said, in the post I made on my blog site, it goes into it a lot more depth. Okay, there's a couple charts in there referencing for all the different types of bits and the shank size and such. So I kind of wanted to give you a general overview of where we're at with regard to router bits. I hope this provided value for you. Please subscribe, and please hit the bell for notification. We got a lot more videos coming out. We're going to be doing things on painting, sealing, the CNC builds, design, and this is all to provide you value. Hopefully you get something for it. I'd love to hear your feedback on your comments and tell me what you think. And what bits do you use? That's the question I asked actually for you. What bits do you use, and how do you use them? And am I totally crazy? Hopefully not. I've been doing it for a few years, so excuse me. Have a great day, and I'll look forward to see you in the next video. Thanks again.